The wind swept across the dusty plains, carrying the smell of sagebrush and the faint, earthy scent of the river. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. Out in the vast expanse of the Wild West, the land seemed endless, untamed, and free. But freedom came with solitude, and for the lone rancher named Elias McCready, that solitude had been his companion for as long as he could remember. His life was one of routine, tending to the cattle, mending fences, and keeping the land in order. There was comfort in the predictability of the work, a steady rhythm that filled the void left by years of loneliness. Yet, deep down, there was an emptiness that no amount of toil could fill. One evening, as Elias rode back from checking the western pastures, he noticed a figure on the horizon, sitting by the riverbank. At first, he thought it might be a traveler in need of help, or perhaps a lost soul trying to find their way. But as he drew closer, the figure resolved into a woman, tall and strong, with a presence that seemed to command the landscape itself. Her hair was long, black as raven feathers, cascading over her shoulders. Her eyes held the weight of countless stories, and the pride of her people glimmered in every gesture. She was Apache, and there was no mistaking the fierce dignity in her posture. Elias slowed his horse and called out a cautious greeting. The woman looked up, her eyes narrowing slightly, wary yet curious. "Evening, ma'am," he said, tipping his hat. "You're far from any settlement. Are you lost?" The woman's voice was calm but steady. "I am not lost, rancher. I seek passage and refuge." There was a firmness to her words, a declaration that she was used to being in control of her fate. Elias sensed that this was not a woman to be underestimated. "What brings you to these lands?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. The plains were his home, and he had learned long ago that those who traversed them carried their own burdens and stories. "I am in need of a place where I may be allowed to live and work. I have nowhere else to go," she said. There was no plea in her voice, only a clear, unwavering resolve. Elias studied her, assessing the risk and the possibilities. The ranch had been quiet, too quiet. The thought of company, someone capable and strong, brought a strange sense of relief. Yet there was caution too. The Wild West was not kind to strangers, especially those who came alone and proud. "All right," he said finally, his voice careful but honest. "You may stay. I can use the help around the ranch. But understand this. Respect my land and my rules, and we'll get along fine." The woman's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "I will respect the land, rancher, and I will respect you." Days turned into weeks, and the woman, who introduced herself as Ayana, proved invaluable to the ranch. Her strength and skill with livestock, her knowledge of tracking and hunting, made her indispensable. She moved through the land with a grace that seemed almost instinctual, her connection to the earth evident in every step she took. Elias found himself observing her more than he expected. There was an allure in the way she carried herself, a blend of pride, resilience, and untamed beauty. It was a dangerous feeling, he knew, one that had no place in the routine of ranch life. Yet he could not deny it. He was drawn to her, as irresistibly as the river was drawn to the plains. One evening, after a long day of work, they sat together by the fire outside the main house. The stars were scattered across the night sky, brilliant and cold. Silence fell between them, comfortable yet heavy with unspoken words. Ayana broke the silence. "Elias," she said softly, almost hesitantly, "there is something I wish to say, something I have carried with me for a long time." Her gaze met his, steady and unwavering. He shifted closer, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, the night air filling her lungs. "Let your lineage sprout in me," she said plainly, her words deliberate and unashamed. Elias felt the weight of the statement, the audacity of it, and yet there was a sincerity that made him pause. For a moment, the fire crackled loudly between them, the silence pressing on every nerve. Elias's mind raced, grappling with the implications of her words. He had been alone for so long, his life bound to the land, his heart locked away from connection. And now, here was a woman asking to become an inseparable part of his life, to intertwine her future with his. "Do you understand what you are asking?" he asked finally, his voice steady but low. "This is not just a passing thought. This is a life we would be creating together." "I understand," Ayana replied without hesitation. "I have wandered long enough. I have sought a place where my strength and spirit are honored, where my heart may find a home. I see that in you, Elias. I wish to build something lasting here with you." The rancher's chest tightened. There was a deep fear within him, fear of attachment, fear of change. Yet, beneath it all, there was a burgeoning hope, a possibility he had not dared imagine. Slowly he nodded. "Then stay," he said. "Stay, and let us see what the future holds. But know this path will not be easy. The land is harsh, life is harsher, and hearts are even more so." Ayana smiled, a radiant expression that lit the night. "I am ready, rancher. I am ready to face it all with you." The seasons changed as they always did. Winter brought harsh winds and biting cold. Spring brought renewal and growth. Through it all, Ayana worked beside Elias, her presence transforming the ranch into more than just a place of labor. It became a home. Together, they mended fences, guided the cattle, and nurtured the land. But their bond deepened in ways that went beyond work. There were quiet moments, like evenings by the fire, where conversation flowed freely, laughter echoed across the plains, and unspoken glances spoke volumes. There were nights when the wind carried the scent of earth and rain, and they would sit in silence, hearts beating in rhythm with the untamed world around them. Then came the moment when their bond took on a new dimension, one that changed everything. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the air was warm with the promise of summer, Ayana approached Elias with a determination that was unmistakable. "It is time," she said softly. "Time to honor what we have built, to create life from our union, to let your lineage truly sprout in me." Elias felt a surge of emotions: love, fear, hope, and desire. He knew that life would never be the same, that the ranch, the land, and their hearts were now intertwined in ways that were irreversible. And yet, there was no hesitation in him, no doubt. He took her hands in his, feeling the strength and warmth of her grip. "Then we do it together," he whispered. The days that followed were filled with a new kind of intimacy, a merging of hearts and bodies that had long been starved for connection. They moved together in harmony, guided by trust, respect, and the fierce passion of two souls who had finally found each other. Each touch, each glance, was a promise of life, of legacy, of a future that was no longer solitary. When spring returned, it brought with it signs of new life. Ayana's body carried the proof of their bond, a living testament to the union that had begun beside the riverbank and matured through seasons of work and companionship. Elias found himself overwhelmed with a sense of awe and responsibility. He was no longer just a rancher. He was a partner, a protector, and soon, a father. The ranch itself seemed to flourish in tandem with their lives. The cattle thrived, the land seemed more vibrant, and even the wind seemed to carry a gentler promise. Neighbors and travelers who passed by would notice the difference, the quiet strength and warmth that now radiated from the ranch, a home built not just of timber and soil, but of love and purpose. Ayana, too, embraced her new role with grace and determination. She shared her knowledge of the land with Elias, taught him the ways of her people, and together, they prepared for the life that was growing inside her. Every task, every chore, every evening spent by the fire became part of a shared story, a testament to the power of trust, courage, and the willingness to open one's heart. Through it all, Elias often reflected on the day he first saw her by the river. He remembered the pride and strength in her eyes, the unwavering conviction in her voice, and the way she had asked him to let his lineage sprout in her. It was a bold request, one that could have been met with fear or rejection. But instead, it had become the foundation of a life he could never have imagined alone. As the months turned into years, their family began to grow. Children were born, each one carrying the legacy of two resilient, passionate souls. Iana taught them the ways of the land, the importance of honor and courage, and the pride of their heritage. Elias provided guidance, protection, and the steady hand of a man who had learned that life's greatest rewards often came from opening one's heart, even when it seemed impossible. The ranch became a beacon of life and hope in the Wild West, a testament to the power of love, respect, and partnership. Travelers would speak of Elias McCready and Iana, the Apache woman who had transformed a lonely ranch into a thriving home. Their story became a legend, not because of the hardships they endured, but because of the courage it took to embrace love, to nurture life, and to honor the bond they had forged amidst the untamed beauty of the plains. In the quiet moments, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned to gold and purple, Elias and Iana would sit together, hands entwined, hearts in sync. They would watch their children play, the cattle graze, and the land stretch endlessly before them. And in those moments, Elias knew the truth of what Iana had said long ago, by the riverbank. To let his lineage sprout in her was to allow life, love, and legacy to flourish in ways he had never dared to imagine. Their story was more than a tale of survival or romance. It was a testament to the Wild West itself, a land that demanded strength, courage, and heart. And in letting his lineage sprout in Iana, Elias had discovered not only the power of connection, but the enduring truth that even in the harshest of lands, life and love could take root, grow, and thrive. The wind still swept across the plains, carrying the scent of sagebrush and river. The sun still painted the sky with gold and crimson. And on the McCready Ranch, a family lived, loved, and flourished, proof that even in a world as unforgiving as the Wild West, hope, legacy, and the human spirit could triumph. Elias often whispered a silent thanks to the river that had brought her to him, to the land that had witnessed their union, and to the courage it had taken to embrace what he had once feared. For in Iana, he had found more than a partner. He had found a life, a lineage, and a love that would endure long after the plains had forgotten the wind, the dust, and the passing travelers. And so, the legend of Elias McCready and Iana lived on, carried by the wind across the endless plains, reminding all who heard it that sometimes, the bravest act in the Wild West is to open one's heart, trust in another, and allow life to blossom in the most unexpected of places.